What is up, guys? Welcome on back to TK's Garage, and in today's video we're talking about retards. Yeah, we're talking about California literally saying we're just going to do whatever we want to do, and now we're getting to the find out portion of that scenario, and I don't think California is going to like it, as the California Air Resource Board is going to have to come to Congress and testify. Fuck around and find out.
Perfect.
Guys, before we get into today's video, I got to talk about the giveaway here on the channel. The TRX extra entries have all sold out. You can see that over on the website now. And the Dodge Charger, the 1970 purple, plum crazy purple Charger that we're calling the Purple Heart, is damn near there. There's not very many of those extra entries remaining. So if you want to get a best chance at picking up a classic with a 392 swap, now's the time to do it. Very simple to get in. Go over to tk'sgarage.bigcartel.com. Let's get into the video. So, shout out to Rick for sending this over to me via email. I missed this one, but it went live this afternoon. House GOP subpoenas California officials over refusal to drop the EV mandate. Oh yeah, this is getting salty. So let's get into it. A powerful House panel took the extraordinary step of subpoenaing a California official, claiming her agency had refused to hand over relevant records during a 7-month investigation into the state's electric vehicle mandate, according to a letter obtained by the Post. The House Energy and Commerce Committee issued the subpoena to the California Air Resource Board Chair, Lauren Sanchez, on Monday, demanding communications and documents regarding regulations that Golden State officials said would transition away from gas-powered vehicles by 2035. You've heard all this before. That's all null and void thanks to congressional review acts. The feds do set the policy when it comes to emissions, not the state of California. Outside of what they believe, they are still part of the United States, and they still fall under federal supremacy. Now, they said, quote, forcing Americans to buy unreliable and costly EVs would eliminate consumer choice, strain our electric grid, raise costs, and increase our reliance on entities tied to the Chinese Communist Party, said House Energy and Commerce Chairman Brett Guthrie, Republican of Kentucky, told the Post. Look at this jackass, Gavin Newsom, straight goofball looking ass. They said, quote, we will continue to follow the facts and demand accountability from California. I urge California to comply with this subpoena speedily and in good faith. Actually, I hope they don't comply. I hope they get arrested. I hope they get hit with contempt of Congress, and Congress has their asses arrested. That would make my friggin' day. But anyways, CARB did respond. A CARB spokesman responded that the agency in the past has provided information and documents, not all, probably some, including on, quote, California's longstanding authority under the Clean Air Act and the actions CARB has taken to protect public health and welfare in the state. Yes, except all of those waivers that you were using to set that policy have now been rescinded. They are not law. You can't just make up whatever fucking rules you want, California. You're part of the federal, you're part of the United States of America. And as long as you are, you got to follow the friggin' rules. So they said, quote, CARB's goal is to support the committee's legislative inquiry through a transparent, cooperative exchange of information, the rep added. The Biden administration had signed off on waivers for California to impose the regulations, but President Trump nullified the waivers last June. in response to 3 resolutions that passed on a bipartisan basis in the House and the Senate, a White House bill signing event, Trump boasted that the 3 Congressional Review Act resolutions would kill the California mandates forever. Legally, they have. But Guthrie wrote in a letter accompanying the subpoena that California has still been denying auto manufacturers approval to bring vehicles to market unless the manufacturers agreed to comply with the regulations that had already been nullified through these CRA resolutions. That's why it's in this Commerce Committee, guys. You can't interfere with interstate commerce. That is a no. California does not set the policy for the United States, unfortunately. Quote, after months of negotiations, CARB's lack of cooperation with this investigation requires the issuance of compulsory process, Guthrie told Sanchez in the missive. The CRA resolutions targeted waivers that had allowed the state to impose higher vehicle pollution standards than are in effect at the federal level under provisions of the Clean Air Act. Those standards, such as the Advanced Clean Trucks Rule, Advanced Clean Cars, and heavy-duty omnibus low NOx regulations were championed by Gavin Newsom and later became a template for more than a dozen other states. Section 209B of the Clean Air Act prohibits states from implementing emission standards on new cars or engines that differ from those imposed by the federal government unless they obtain a waiver. They don't have any waivers. So for all of you climate nut-swinging fans of Gavin Newsom, yay, you lose. You're violating federal law, and it's going to be bad. Now, they say Newsom and California Attorney General Rob Bonta and the California Air Resource Board shortly after joined with a group of 10 other state AGs to sue the Trump administration for disapproving the waivers for EV regulations in June. That led to a lengthy federal court battle, which is currently being heard in the San Francisco-based Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Newsom also signed an executive order in June following the revocation of California's waiver, asking CARB to submit another proposal that would help the state transition from fossil fuels. In March, the Department of Justice fired back with a suit against California over fuel economy regulations that the Trump administration has also seen as effectively an EV mandate. Yeah. So the House committee, which began its probe in August, noted in its letter that it was specifically seeking communications. You know where they're going with this, right? Communications between CARB and the California Governor's Office and the Attorney General of California's office. I wonder why that is. Maybe they're trying to figure out where the fraud is going in the state of California and if it goes all the way to the governor's office. They said, quote, reviewing these documents and communications is vital to understanding what actions, including actions related to enforcement and implementation of the aforementioned law and regulations, the state of California has taken thus far with respect to its new vehicle and new motor emission reduction plans following CRA resolutions signed into law last year, basically saying, we don't fucking care. We're going to do whatever we want, and you guys can pounce in. Well, this again, we're at the portion of the program where you fuck around and find out. And now you're going to get subpoenaed. You're going to testify in a federal proceeding at Congress in a hearing under penalty of perjury. They're going to ask you a bunch of shit that has nothing to do with what you're actually there for. And they're going to ask you about fraud, money, all kinds of stuff. Believe me, I guarantee you the head of CARB does not want to go to Congress. I can guarantee it. Because it will be very, how do I say this? It's going to be very interesting to me if all of a sudden another head of the California Air Resource Board resigns. Because that's happened here recently. What happens if it happens again? What are they hiding? Hopefully Congress can get to it and let them know, because what happens is they'll come testify, they'll say what they're doing, which will be an admission of violating federal law, and I can tell you what the DOJ is going to do. they might put people in jail from the California Air Resource Board and anybody else that's interfering in interstate commerce. They're not playing. Wake up time. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends.